Thank you. Stage right. All right, let's see if this works the way I think it does. And it does. Hi, I'm going to talk about principles or eponymous laws and their truths. And like Zach, you're going to be like, I don't know those words. What do they mean? And I'm going to say, wait till the fourth slide, because that's when I'll explain what they mean. So the first thing we're going to see is a slide that you've already seen, because Nick Frost likes to borrow my excellent slides. Hi, I'm Jasper. I'm a third-year computer science student. I recruit speakers via email storms to their inbox saying, where are your slides? Where are your slides? It's 5 minutes to go. Where are your slides? It's 40 minutes past. Nick, where are your slides? And I joined Cal Poly a little bit because I saw Ignite at open house. So there are a few truths of our world, like the truth. There are, like, things fall down, things get cold, things to kind of go wrong a lot. And a lot of really smart people, like famous people, kind of because they notice this, like, I bet if I describe these truths really well, I can get my name in there somehow. People will remember me for all time. So if you've taken a physics class, you ran into a few of them, like Newton and Archimedes and all these boring people, right? They did all these important scientific, mathematical, whatever we'll call it. So I'm going to talk about more interesting laws. For instance, it's not just science, you also have science fiction. So for instance, if this ever goes to the next slide, Isaac Asimov wrote 3 pretty interesting laws about robotics, saying like a robot may never kill someone, a robot should always obey orders, and a robot should always protect its existence, kind of in that order. Never kill someone first, follow orders second, and preserve itself after those first 2 things are met. But there's even more interesting laws. Like, that's kind of serious, but there's like ones like Nasmyth's rule of estimating hikes. Takes into account like how far you're going and how high up you're going to say like, yeah, this is how long a hike takes to do. And the Wadsworth constant, because a Reddit user once noticed that in any YouTube video, you can skip the first 30% to actually get to what you cared about in that video. It also works for comments. There's a whole class of laws called razors. You might have heard of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually the right answer. There's also Hanlon's razor, which says that why think that they did it intentionally, and they probably did it because they're stupid. And Newton's flaming razor sword, which is really cool. It says, if you can't prove it with an experiment, then why do I care about it? There's laws about social stuff, like Campbell's and Goodhart's law both describe how, like, if you try to target a metric, like test scores for why you should get better, it stops being a good metric of how students are doing, like, because they tend to kind of game the system to beat that score. Duverger's law says if you have a first past the post system, you tend to end up with 2 parties, which seems relevant today. There's also Riley's law of retail gravitation, which is like Newton's law. That's the actual formula for this guy, by the way. It says people will go to further malls because they're bigger, and like, has math to explain how people get sucked into malls across the state. There's also laws that kind of relate to the inverse of 2 things. Like in a meeting, if something's really important, you'll spend very little time on it. And if it's worth almost nothing at all, you'll spend the entire meeting discussing it. There's Benford's law, which says that you have more passion for an argument that you have no information about, and you have less passion for an argument you know very well. Kind of inverting the inverse laws, we have exponential laws, like Moore's law very famously describes how we get better computers every couple of years. Metcalfe's law says that the value in a network, like a social network, is the square of the number of users. So every time I add a user, my value kind of goes up by the square of that. But there's one more famous law, the one that you probably all thought of when I started introducing laws named after people, and that's Murphy's law. And Finagle's corollary, which says that not only will it go wrong, it'll go wrong at the worst possible time, which I think is also true. Because usually when things go wrong, that became the worst possible time. So these laws are pretty famous. They spawned off some knockoffs, like Muffrey's law, which says when you criticize people's spelling or grammar, you will make a typo. Or Arum's law, which says like Moore's law doesn't apply to drugs. They get more expensive and harder to find over time. There's like laws about things that are kind of cynical, like Sturgeon's law of crap says that 90% of everything is crap. And Herblock's law says, yeah, and if it's good, it'll be discontinued. Which kind of applies to your favorite TV show. If it's good, it's canceled. If it's not, it's The Housewives. So on the web, we have laws about like how people interact with the web, like Cunningham's law of answers. Like, don't bother posting your question. You want an answer? Post the incorrect answer, and someone will race over to correct you. You can also have Godwin's law that says if you have an argument and it's on the internet, after enough time, someone will mention Hitler. They will always bring up Hitler. When you're dealing with projects, there's Hofstadter's law, which is like, you've probably run into this. It always takes longer than you think, even when you account for Hofstadter's law. Which explains Parkinson's law, which says however much time you give to a project is how much time it will take. In software, we have Wirth's law of software, which says, like, yeah, we can make software slower, faster than we can make computers faster. So software makes everything worse. And then Atwood's law says, if I can write a program in JavaScript, someone will write it in JavaScript. In the news, we have Brandolini's law of bullshit, which says that you can sling bullshit with less energy than you can fight it, which is Twitter. And then you have Betteridge's law of headlines, which is actually a Twitter bot for this, that says if a headline ends in a question, you can answer it with no. Always. Stigler's law of eponymy describes eponymous laws. It says any discovery is not named after the person who discovered it, and says that Stigler's law is actually named after this guy, Robert Burton. So I have one more law, and I'm going to name it after myself, even though I apparently didn't discover it, is that if I give an Ignite topic, there's probably a Wikipedia page of lists of things in that category that I based it off of. So that's the one from this talk, that's the one from the last talk, and that's the one from the talk before that. Thank you, and we have 2 more talks for you. Good night.